It's BMW's quintessential go-to, world-famous mid-size sedan, and it is actually due for a complete overhaul, which is estimated to be revealed in the next couple months. So really, really soon. And I thought it would be a good idea to check out the current 5 Series before it dies off, so we can judge the next one using this as sort of a baseline. Let's go through a little history lesson of the 5 Series, shall we? So the 5 Series picked up where the Bavaria left off in the early 1970s. A lot of generations and changes. There was the E12, that was the first one. Those things are really, really pretty. And then the E28, that was where the first M5 was debuted, and the E28 has gained a legendary status since then, not just because of the M5, but just because of its solid build quality and beauty and pure driving pleasure ethos. And then there was the E34. It was clearly the 5 Series moving itself into the 90s, so it was a little bit more rounded off, a little bit more modern looking, and it was the first 5 Series to have all-wheel drive, which was really, really cool, and the first one to have a V8 in the 530i and the 540i. And then there was the E39, which is one of my favorite cars of all time. My dad used to have one, a 540i with the V8. First time I drove it when I was 17 years old, I was absolutely enamored with it. I wanted it more than anything in the entire world. The E39 has also gained itself a legendary status over the years because of its solid build quality and dependability and the way it drives and the way it looks. And then there's the E60, which was a lot more technology based. It was probably the ugliest and the most controversial 5 Series ever, but the M5 had a V10, which was really cool. Then the F10, which is where you can sort of see the influence on this car. The F10 is one of the most beautiful BMWs ever made, and there's not all that much more to say about it. The F10 was just absolutely gorgeous. And here we are with the G30 and the G30 facelift. Here's how the G30 works. You're not gonna park here. Hey. Just filming a video here. Oh boy. So the 5 Series has a pretty good history and heritage to it, with multiple generations of legendary, awesome cars that are solidly built and really, really good to drive. What about the G30? What can you get today if you want a 5 Series, at least in the United States? So there's the 530i, which is a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, which we have seen before. It's a good engine. I don't know about how it would do powering a big, heavy 5 Series like this, but it is decently smooth, and at least in a 3 Series and an X3, it does pull pretty hard. Then there's the 540i with a twin-turbo straight 6, which we will look at in just a little bit. But if you want V8 power, but don't really want a full M car, there is the M550i, which has a 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 that makes 530 horsepower. Those things are really cool, and I cannot wait to hopefully drive one someday soon. And then there is the M5, which has 600 horsepower, all-wheel drive, which can be switched to rear-wheel drive if you want some hooligan fun. And then there's the M5 Competition, which has a little bit more power, and then the M5 CS with something like 630 horsepower, lovely green paint with bronze accents, and bucket seats, which in a 5 Series doesn't really work with me. So what you see before you today is sort of a mid-level 5 Series. This thing is for sale right now for just under $78,000, and it is brand new. It has only 19 miles on the odometer, which is insane and a little bit scary for me when I'm going to drive it out here in a couple of minutes on the public road. Yes, the G30 5 Series does have a definitive expiration date within the next couple of years, and it's going to be replaced by the next 5 Series, which, who knows? Personally, I'm worried that they're gonna make it look too angular and iX-like and a little bit weird. So I'm hoping that they get it right. The new 5 Series, which is due to be revealed this summer, has really big shoes to fill, because I have to say, this current generation G30 BMW 5 Series is the best looking car that BMW has on the market right now. And it's easy to see why. I mean, it's low, it's long, it's sleek, it's angular. Take the front end, for instance. The front end, yes, it's the M Sport. Yes, it does kind of look like it's copying the M5 a little bit, but overall, it's just a plain damn good look. These headlights right here are sleek, modern looking, and then the grills on the bottom look really, really sporty. Maybe a tad bit over the top, but just the whole shape of the thing up front really works well with this face that it has. It's a really good car design feature. This pillar line moving up the hood right here, which lead right into the windshield that goes all the way to the back and ends on the trunk. And that's not the only line that does that. There's one that starts right here at the headlight, moves all the way to the back, moves up the Hofmeister kink, and then goes up to the roof where it ends. And it's a really subtle line, but if you pay attention and you look close, then you can definitely see it. Then there's a much more noticeable line below that that crosses through the door handles and moves all the way back through the tail lights. And at the bottom, I have a fake vent. Yes, it's a fake vent. It's not really a good thing to have fake vents, but it's painted black. It looks pretty good. And it's got two more lines that spring off of it and go all the way to the back tire. So the whole side of this thing is really, really well designed, really well thought out, if you ask me. On the roof right there is the BMW shark fin antenna that they've been known for since, I think, the E65 series. Then around the back, again, it's the same as the front, basically, not as sporty looking. The taillights are nice and thin, but again, they're angular and they look modern and really beautiful. That subtle rear spoiler there in black really does add to the whole sporty but subtle ethos of the car. I really like how that rear spoiler looks. So overall, I think this is an absolutely gorgeous car. BMW, please do not screw up the design of the next 5 Series because expectations are really, really high here. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about practicality. We have seen the 3 Series before, so this is probably going to be exactly what I would expect, which is like the 3 Series, but bigger, more spacious, pretty much everywhere. So let's see here. A nice large trunk space right here. Ooh, what's that? It's got this little flimsy door in here. That's a weird little storage area, but I guess it's nice to have it. Little net right here. On the other side, there is another storage area, no lid covering it. These seats fold down, of course, which is what you would want. There's a cigarette style charging outlet right there, which you wouldn't normally expect to see in a sedan. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a nice large trunk. Alrighty, rear seat room of the G35 series. And would you believe it? This seat right here is in my driving position. I am 6'3", so let's see how it is. First impressions are that legroom is quite poor, to be honest, especially for a mid-size sedan. You could get much, much, much more room back here at a much, much, much lower price with a Honda Accord, for example. So yeah, legroom, I mean, that is really not impressive. It's just basically the same as the 3 Series. $80,000 and your passengers are going to be complaining constantly about the fact that you spent that much money on a car where they have no legroom in the back. Foot room though isn't too bad. I can move my feet around a little bit. I mean, I can't really stretch out that much, but my feet don't feel trapped. At least there's that. Headroom is again, not really. Honestly, not really that good. The whole ceiling of the car dips down quite sharply right here where the grab handles are positioned, and that's a little bit weird. So you find yourself bumping your head into that, and that could be quite uncomfortable, and I could see getting some headaches from that if I was in an M5 on the racetrack, for instance. So headroom isn't that good, legroom isn't that good, footroom is okay. I don't think tall adults will be that happy back here, but at least they have one of my favorite things, especially in a 5 Series, window blinds, which I have always loved. And look, beautiful, nice wood grain trim right here, and then there's a bit of aluminum texture underneath that, and this speaker right here is absolutely gorgeous. You can find cheap plastics, definitely, if you look for them, but for the most part, I really, really like the materials back here. This whole center area right here, there's no climate control, at least in this car, which is a shame. But at least you can store whatever will fit in that, an iPod Nano, for instance. And there's a larger storage area down here. That's where you could probably put your phone while it charges off of these USB-C ports. And you also have a cigarette-style charging outlet right there. Big transmission tunnel, which is a shame, but that can be quite difficult to engineer out, especially if it's a quite short, sporty sedan. You need magical powers to engineer that out in a car like this. I'm not really a fan of the back seat. You won't be that comfortable, but at least it'll still feel like you're sitting in a luxury sedan. And this is the front seat. The business end of the business executive sedan. The 5 Series, oh yes. Now this is where you want to spend your time when you have a car like this, up here. Again, I love, love, love this wood trim. It's nice and dark, so it fits really well with the black leather that surrounds it. All these aluminum textures on here to contrast with the wood look really, really, really stunning and beautiful. I believe that is a power rear window blind, which is cool. This is one of those weird center console things where it's like there's 2 different lids if your passenger can't be bothered to even move their arm off of the armrest. One little USB-C port in there, not as many as you might expect, and it's quite a small little storage area in there. Nothing that special to report on it, it's just a little smaller than you'd think. This button right here for the parking sensors and park assist and things like that is really, really, really large, and I wonder why. Maybe in other versions of the 5 Series, there's more buttons that they fit right there, because this, for the parking sensors, that's a really big button. This whole finish right here, it looks really good because this car has 20 miles on the odometer, but I imagine as soon as you start driving it, it will be littered with fingerprints and dust and won't look all that nice down the road. Drive mode buttons right here, traction control off, which is a nice thing to still be able to find. Classic BMW spinny wheel pie-dish thing, and infotainment system is running iDrive 7, which again, this car is due to be replaced pretty soon. You can expect the next 5 Series to have iDrive 8 or a new version of iDrive. We'll see what happens. But what's nice about this version of iDrive 7 is the screen is absolutely massive. So it does work a little bit better. It's a little bit more crisp than you'd expect on something like a 3 Series or even the 2 Series Grand Coupe. So you can see it a lot better. It's easier to touch things. That makes it feel a lot more responsive, intuitive, easy to use. It has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and despite that, it's quite boring. There's not really anything special about it. It's okay by today's standards, but it'll be nice to see something new on the next 5 Series. Cup holders here with the tabs that I like, USB-A and a wireless charger. Pretty much every BMW is the same setup up here. Press this little thing in and the whole lid closes for a nice, more flush look. If you really like the wood trim, you want to see some more wood trim, then there you go. Climate controls are still buttons. In the earlier G30s, these are actually capacitive touch. I guess they're not anymore. And I've got heated and cooled seats, which you can turn on at the same time, which I don't really know who would do that, but it's nice to know that you can. Whether or not you like BMW as a brand, you can't argue that their heated seats are insanely good. They just are. And then I've got the radio with the presets that you can find by hovering your finger over the button, and you can assign them to random things. Again, this whole look, this whole center dashboard look is really, 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 really beautiful. Digital gauge cluster, which is cool. It's not as configurable as it could be, but I'm sure on the next 5 Series that will be something a little different. This steering wheel right here, the M Sport steering wheel, which I love. I think it is really, really awesome. It's nice and comfortable to hold in your hand. It's nice and thick, but not like too thick, so it's easy to grab onto it. For comfort's sake, it's really, really easy to get comfortable up here because the seat has so much adjustment and it feels beautiful and luxurious in here. So again, this is a 3-liter twin turbo straight 6, and it develops 335 horsepower, at least in this car. This is the exact same engine, I am told, as what is put in the X5, X6, and X7 40i models, but it is basically the same thing as what is in, well, the M240i, the M340i, the X3 M40i, the X4 M40i, the Supra, and the Z4. Those have the same engine as this, but it's tuned differently. For more power, they develop, I think it's quoted around 380 horsepower. This one is detuned compared to those. It's more tuned for luxury, smoothness, not necessarily for power. But I'll be looking forward to experiencing this engine for myself because, again, it's basically in everything now. This is one of the last BMW engines that I haven't experienced myself yet, and I'm really, really excited to when we take it out on the road. So how about we go do that now? Feel and pretty much hear nothing because of how smooth this engine is. I've got a little heads-up display up in front of me on the hood. Shows me the current speed limit, my speed, and it'll warn me if I'm not wearing my seatbelt, which is pretty cool. I think that's kind of nice. Before we start to drive it, press that button, and now I have heated steering wheel. We are in our favorite little parking lot here, maneuverability test, and wouldn't you know it, it's what you'd expect for a car of this size. It's not great, but I mean, I think it's pretty decent at doing U-turns and things like that. It's got a good turning circle, so you should never have any problems. One real complaint that I have about this car is it's not an everybody complains about this, and I usually try to understand BMW because it's a business, they got to make money. The M brand has a lot of financial potential in it, a lot of, it's legendary with people. People really like the M brand, but I'm sorry, there's just way too many M badges in this thing for being an M car. It's just too much, way too much. All right, 540i, 3 liters, 6-cylinder, 335 horsepower. It goes. It really does go. 335 horsepower. It feels every bit of 335 horsepower to me. Not surprising. It's quick. It's definitely quick. It's not light your pants on fire fast, but feels like a really nice engine. I can definitely understand why it's basically put in everything because it's just an amazing engine. People know BMW for their 6-cylinders, and yeah, you can definitely see why. It's smooth, it's quick, and it sounds good too. When you put your foot down and when you rev it up, it sounds actually really nice. Yeah, just driving it regularly. No, it doesn't sound as good as their V8 sounds, but that's just the way of life. I still think that if I were looking to buy a 5 Series, then I would get the M550i. And there it was telling me, it'll tell you when the outside temperature reaches 37 degrees Fahrenheit or below, because that's where they believe roads can get slippery. So it's basically the car saying, hey, be careful, it's cold outside. So normally that's not interesting. It warns you in the gauge cluster, but it just warned me on the heads-up display too. Just pretty cool. I like the way that they've integrated this heads-up display into this car. We're in Sport Plus mode. Whew, yeah. It is a 540i in terms of performance to me. The 540i, when I first drove my dad's car, that thing was so quick, and I absolutely loved it. Like, it felt just insanely fast for a 17-year-old with pretty much no experience like me. But yeah, and this thing feels every bit as fast as that old car did, despite being much larger, much heavier, more modern, and having a smaller engine. But that's the benefit of modern engine design and turbocharging. It's got 50 more horsepower than that old V8 did all those years ago, and that makes up for the increase in weight, that's for sure. But again, it's no M car, and there's way, 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 way too many badges, way too many M badges in this thing. It's ridiculous. Normally, I will defend BMW to the hills on this subject, but in this car, too much. You've got M badges on the brake calipers, on the wheels. I've got 2 that I'm staring at right here. I've got one on the steering wheel, one in the gauge cluster. I guess the M Sport package and the obscene amount of M badges would be at least enough to make you feel better about not being able to afford the M550i or the M5 even. So it's nice that they're looking out for the guy that has, the guy that wasn't as successful. They're looking out for the lower class people, and I you really respect BMW for that. They're respectful to everybody. It doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account. Well, as long as you have at least $78,000 to buy one of these things. Everything else about this car is absolutely superb. And the rear seat room isn't good. Not good. But from where I'm sitting right here, it's so lovely. Like, I love this wood trim right here. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous inside. I love all the materials. The seats front and back are really, really nice. You have to pay extra for nice quilted leather like this. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. You feel all the bumps. Like, there's a manhole cover right here. Yeah, I definitely felt it, but it wasn't offensive. It's not making me excessively uncomfortable. It's just you feel the road, you get enough feedback, but none of it is jarring or uncomfortable or annoying. I don't feel totally isolated, but I do feel confident enough with the feedback that I'm getting that this car can also hold its own in a corner, which is what you want. And again, in terms of handling, I'm gonna take this turn a little fast here. Pretty much no body roll. And that sound is it's such a smooth, easy going noise. Yeah, this is a really nice car. It's gorgeous inside and out. It's nice and luxurious. They've got a lot to live up to with this next one. So I hope they don't disappoint. I'm sure they won't, but I really, really hope that they don't screw this next car up. With that, I'm gonna end the video there. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope everybody has a great day. Bye-bye.